Okay, hello folks. How you guys doing? We almost started on time today, so that's good. Anyway, hello everyone. My name is Mark. This is Why I Hate the World. What's happening? And we are live. So, this is what we had last time. And, we didn't really plan anything last time here. I was figuring, I was just sort of doodling, and it kind of turned into this kind of fantasy, kind of thing with this like weird elf girl and a goblin kind of guy. And it looks alright, but I think we can do better. I think we can do way better. So what I'm going to do is I actually think we should redraw this and make it look not so shitty. So that's what I'm going to do today. I think that'll go a little bit better when we have a plan, right? So first off, I need to find a coaster. Where the hell are my coasters at? I had a coaster around here somewhere. Anyway, yeah, what the fuck happened to my coaster? What the hell? I wanted to show you guys something before we start off. I don't know, I can't find any coasters, so fuck it. Hopefully I don't damage the table. I'm also a sculptor, so I sculpt things. So let me show you guys something that I made here. Let me just kind of move the camera up a little bit so I can show it to you guys. I made this thing. So this is actually a sculpture that I made. I make stuff like this. So this is... I'd say this is maybe about, the center here is maybe 5 inches, and then from tip to tip is maybe about a foot long. And what it is, I use paper and tape. There's a bunch of tape. And then the veins here, this stuff is called green stuff. I mean, it's colored green, but I actually painted it a different color green. It's like little modeling material that guys use on Warhammer miniatures, basically. So I made all the little veins out of this and stuff like that. So let's see how well this camera picks this up. Yeah, it looks okay. But anyway, you can kind of see, there's like mouths and eyeballs and orifices and weird stuff all over here. These are buffalo teeth, so you can buy these on eBay. And like, okay, my light is a little bright. Let's kind of turn the light down. Yeah, it looks a little bit better. So anyway, yeah, I think I'm going to put this up for sale for probably $40 or $50 or something. And, it's made out of, like, tape and latex. And, these are, like, costume teeth that I bought. And then I sculpted some more teeth that went on there. So, so it looks like it has, like, multiple kind of mouths. And it's like this... I make stuff like this, like, here's one. Here's another one that I actually made out of a styrofoam pumpkin. Same kind of deal, so it sort of looks like this weird, disgusting kind of boil creature. Right? Lots of teeth and eyes and disgusting shit going on with it. Right. And another sort of little mini tentacle monster thing. So I usually sell things like this at cons. But I'm going to start listing these on my Etsy shop. So if anybody's interested, links will be down in the bottom. And also at the end of the stream, I'll go through all of my links as well. Let's see. That's about centered. Wouldn't you say? No, a little bit more right there. And let me get rid of this thing. So, yeah, just thought I would share that with you guys. Alright, so first thing we gotta do is make the light a little brighter. And then we gotta move that up a little more. And then I have to turn off the... Shit, I forgot to do that. Have to turn off the auto focus, or else it's gonna be all weird. And what happens is that it goes in and out of focus constantly if I don't turn off the autofocus. So let me go into configure video, and then camera control, focus. Sorry, I forgot about that, guys. And, oh, it just won't let me enter that in. I have to actually move it. Okay. 3, 4, come on. There we go. Perfect. Alright. And so, anyway, how are we all doing out there, folks? Everybody staying safe, I hope. Everybody still employed, wearing a mask, you know, not getting sick. That's good. There is a lot for us to talk about. God damn it. See, this is because I moved the camera. Now I gotta situate it all. I gotta situate it all back again. So, sorry. Should have done all this before we started. So, all right, that's good enough. Anyway, so yeah, I think we're gonna start over, like I was saying. So let's get some fresh paper. And let's start from the beginning. So we're going to do a kind of halfling hobbit person encountering a goblin thing in the middle of the woods. That's going to be our subject for the stream. I see somebody's watching. How you doing out there, my second concurrent viewer? What's happening? Anyway, lots of shit to talk about. I want to try something a little bit different. There are a couple of very funny news stories that have happened out there that kind of relate to what's going on in the world. So, there is a massively giant wildfire in California right now. In fact, well, first off, there's like, 20 or 25 wildfires happening at the same time in California. Right? So there is a shitload of wildfires happening. And one of them is this massively giant fire, which is, so far it's burned more than 7,000 acres at the time of this writing here. And I'm sure we've all heard about this. How do I make this shit go away? God damn it, CNN, fuck off. Alright. So let me turn on my left monitor, because I thought this shit was hilarious, and I'm sure you've heard about this. Woman who popularized the gender reveal party says enough already after latest wildfire. So what happened? Alright, I know that this has been all over social media and shit, and I wish CNN would stop doing this. But see, if I turn on my ad blocking thing, then what it does is it just blocks the entire thing, and then you can't read it at all. Basically, one of the largest wildfires in California now, which is blazing out of control for the last, week, was started after a fucking gender reveal party. Where these assholes, I'm gonna play this video, these assholes blew up a fucking bomb. You know what? Fuck this. I'm not playing that video. Anyway, what happened, long story short, this family blew up a bomb that would release blue or pink smoke in order to reveal the gender of their baby. And like all geniuses, they didn't think about what happens when you blow up an incendiary device in the middle of, dry brush. So, of course, this starts a wildfire, which burns like, something like more than 7,000 acres. Now, it was 7,000 acres on September 8th. It's now September 13th. Who even knows what it's at now? Right. Threatening homes. And apparently, this family that caused this, I wish this shit would go away. I fucking hate CNN. Fuck you, CNN. I'm never, reading your shit ever again. Apparently, this family that caused this is going to most likely be on the hook for the entire cost of the fire, which is mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. And apparently, right now, the toll is up to around $8 million, which is, I don't see how that is going to, oh wait, I gotta do one more thing here. I don't see how that is going to, alright, hang on, folks. Okay, here we go. So, I have to make this so that, my hand fits inside of the thing because it's at a weird... You know what? Actually, shit. Can I undo that? Yeah, I'm just gonna undo that. Okay, because what it is I have it set to a 90-degree thing. So, let's see, 90 degrees. Is this gonna be upside down? Yeah, that's upside down. Okay, that's weird. One more time. Okay, transform. 90 degrees. Transform, 90 degrees. Alright, I think that's as good as it's going to get. So, shit, am I going to have to sit over there in order for this to make sense? I don't know. It might come out, it might look weird when I'm drawing it, because I'm actually, yeah. But fuck it, we're already like 23 minutes into the stream. So, anyway, so what do I think about this? Well, you know, these people obviously are not going to pay $8 million. All right, let's just be real. That's not going to happen. All right. So I don't really know what this is all about. Right. I guess it's maybe just a thing to like scare people into like thinking about, you know, maybe don't do shit that starts fires. Is this what it is? I mean, think about, you know, if you were on the hook for an $8 million bill, what would you do about it? You know, I mean, would you pay it? Probably not. You know, I wouldn't pay it just because I don't have $8 million. So what, are they just gonna like garnish your wages for the rest of your fucking life or something? There we go. Okay, just trying to make this so that it covers the entire thing. Right. I mean, are they just gonna like garnish your wages for the rest of your life? You know, is that what it is? Or are they just gonna like, I mean, I don't see how that works or how that benefits anybody. You know, are they going to force them to sell all of their property in order to pay restitution? And like, you know, or do these people actually have $8 million? I mean, if they did, that'd be nice. Somehow I don't think they do. I mean, then again, I don't know. I mean, stupid people, just because they're dumb and don't understand that fires start doesn't mean they're bad at business. They might really be good at business. So maybe they're rich. Maybe they can afford it, in which case, good. Let's fucking, you know, if that's the case, let's take them to the fucking bank. I mean, think about how many lives that, you know, potentially could destroy a massive wildfire like that. Just think about that, okay? Here we go. Okay, now everything's right side up. All right, that was like, you know, sorry, I know we haven't even started drawing yet, so let's start drawing. So we're gonna do, yeah, let's do something like this. Let's do something like, first we'll plot out where our, you know, let's make her the same kind of thing. We'll make her like a halfling. Right. And let's see. So first step when you do illustrations kind of like this is you want to get the composition before you actually start drawing anything, right? So I'm kind of pushing myself here, folks, because I don't usually do stuff like this. See, the stuff I'm good at is what I've shown in my other streams, where I just sit down and just start drawing and don't think about it, and it turns into this like crazy thing. Like, I'm really good at that kind of thing, you know, like the plague demon, right, that we did for the last like 5 streams. That's what I kind of excel in, and because I do it so often. In fact, I don't even really count that as, you know, drawing. It's more like meditation to me, because it doesn't require any thinking on my part, right? Well, when you actually want to do like an illustration that has a point and a story to tell and all that shit, then you have to actually think about how it's going to look, or else you get something really like horrible and mediocre like we did last week, right? So let's see. So we'll have our you know, kind of halfling person, and let's give her a kind of you know, let's see, you're just sort of sketching the, you know, sketching the bones kind of thing is what they call it, right? Anyway, so yeah, I just thought that shit was hilarious. That, you know, so much, I mean, just so much trouble could come from something so small, right? That was funny as fucking hell. And funny and terrible. So don't get me wrong, I'm not laughing at, like, people's houses burning down. I mean, that's the last thing I would ever laugh at, you know? But I'm just saying it's like, that's like something you would see in an Onion article, you know? Speaking of Onion articles, here's another one, which was incredibly horrible and ridiculous at the same time. Right? So, this is, let me turn on my monitor. I'm sure you all heard about this, the Trump boats. Trump boats keep sinking at the Trump boat parades, right? This shit is fucking hilarious too. So what's the story with these things? Well, basically, a lot of Trump supporters are, you know, kind of the upper middle class, right? And a lot of these guys have disposable income. Pretty much they're people in my social strata, you know what I mean? Like, middle-aged guys who have a decent amount of money, right? Some of them may be going through, you know, midlife crisis or something like that, right? And, you know, they're getting a little older, and they, you know, have the cash to blow on shit like boats and fancy cars and stuff like that. So you're seeing these boat parades, and basically every time they have them, 5 or 6 of the boats end up sinking in the bottom of the goddamn water. So this here, you know, beautiful boaters, right? So basically, what's going on here? Why do these guys keep sinking, right? You know, here's one: August, Portland, 17, one boat sank. September 5th in Lake Travis, 5 boats, 5 boats sunk. September 6th in River Falls, 1 boat capsized. Why does that shit keep happening, right? It's because, and this is kind of telling, you know, I'm not the only person to say this, okay? But it's because basically when you're in when you're boating, there are rules about how fast you can go, right? Because if you go too fast, you create wakes. And when you create wakes, smaller boats get caught up in the wake and can take on water and can ultimately end up sinking. You know, they can capsize if the boat is so small that, you know, the wake is too big and it knocks them over, right? And it's generally recognized in boating circles, apparently. I'm not saying because it's not like I have a boat or anything, but it's generally recognized that, you know, you don't speed out on your giant boat when there's other people in little boats around, because this is what'll happen. And that's apparently good boating etiquette. And it's kind of telling that this movement of Trump supporters are not following that etiquette. Not following that etiquette because, you know, they're selfish, basically. And it's kind of, you know, kind of fits. It's like, okay, well, here goes a selfish president. You know, it kind of stands to reason that his constituents would be pretty selfish too, right? So, anyway, you know, selfish people do selfish things, and they don't think about the people that they hurt or the consequences therein. And that's just kind of symbolic for Donald Trump and MAGA people in general. So, and I'm not the person, I didn't come up with this shit. I mean, this is like what we're seeing all over Twitter and left-wing media in general. I just thought this shit was hilarious. I thought it was hilarious because, you know, it's like those people say, yeah, get on the Trump train, you know, the Trump train wreck. Right? And it's symbolic. That's what it is. It's symbolic for the movement as a whole. So, okay. Anyway, thought we'd start off with a couple of, although this live stream has started off horribly. The technical difficulties and shit like that. One of these days I'm going to get this process down. And we will have a nice, decent live stream that starts on time without 10 minutes of me fucking with the camera and all of that shit. One of these days. This is what's going to happen. Let's see. I made her head way too big. All right. Head is too big. Let me resize that head. So yeah. Well, the main thing I wanted to talk about today. Let me kind of move over here and move back over there. You know, basically, partying during the apocalypse. That's what I named this stream. Because we are, as a nation and as a world, essentially heading towards a brick wall in multiple different ways. Okay. The United States is in trouble right now, right? Domestically, we're in trouble. Abroad, we're in trouble. Our economy is in trouble. Our environment is in trouble. Our government is in trouble. Our democracy is very, very much in trouble. And, you know, we've always had lots of problems in this country. You know, pretty much all the time. And I'm not going to, like, say we didn't ever. But what's different now between other types of times in the past is that we have maybe, you know, 7 or 8 major crises happening all at once in the country, right? You know, first off, talking about basically, you know, what's going on, you know, in the international field. Well, we have right now 2 wars, which are still happening, right? And they've been drawn down a lot. You know, the Iraq War, the Afghan War. They are very much, you know, on the tail end of each of those wars, but they're still happening. We still have troops in Iraq. Still have something like 5,000 troops, right? Which are still being put in harm's way. We still have troops in Afghanistan, right? We still are doing, you know, drone bombing exercises, I guess. Campaigns, I guess is the word for it, in multiple countries in the Middle East, right? You know, I think at one point it was something like 7 different countries in the Middle East had the drone program going, right? And granted, things have kind of wound down a little bit there over the years, you know, especially with the Islamic State being, you know, not even nearly what it was. But it's not like shit has ended there. We're still spending lots, you know, billions of dollars. We're spending more on our military than we ever have, ever, in the history of the country. I mean, you'd have to go back to World War II to find, you know, the amount, you know, any in today's dollars, anything even close to what we were spending right now. You know what? I don't like that. Let's get rid of that. That goblin head looks like shit. Okay, let's put him over here. All right. Let's put a goblin right there. Okay, here we go. We'll just have him sort of climbing out of a tree or something, right? So that's still happening. You know, the threat of international Islamic terrorism is still there. We still have the potential for, you know, a 9/11 kind of event that could still occur. You know, something like a dirty bomb attack or some shit like that. That's still there. So, you know, 20 years of spending all this money and you know, however many Americans dead, you know, and wounded. Something like, you know, 5,000 to 8,000 Americans dead and 50,000 wounded in the last 20 years since we started everything in Afghanistan and Iraq. You know, it's a lot, okay? More than $2 trillion in money spent, you know, blood and treasure is what they call that, in order to facilitate those wars over there. And who knows how much, you know, this is going to, what the blowback from all this is going to be in the future. You know, 9/11 occurred in 2001. That means that someone who was born in 2001 is 19 years old today. So there are people in the Middle East who are now 19, you know, going on, and maybe in their early 20s, who have never known a time without an American presence there. right? You got to think how how much that affects the national psyche of a people. You know what I mean? Like, imagine you lived in Iraq, right? Or just, let's not even imagine. Just imagine that you live where you live, and let's say the Chinese occupied your land. And for the last 20 years, you've had Chinese soldiers running around with impunity, blowing people away and breaking into people's houses and carting them away up and putting bags over their heads and sending them off to who knows where. And doing shit like driving around in caravans and shooting your dog. That was a thing that I remember seeing a news story about that. About how soldiers, US soldiers, would drive around and like one guy was bored and he got in trouble because he was bored and on his patrols and was machine gunning down people's dogs that were in their yards. Can you imagine that shit? Can you imagine if you're just like chilling, you got your dog in the front yard, it's running around, maybe you put a leash on it, it's running around on a pole, sometimes people do that, and then some fucking assholes drive by and just machine gun down your dog. Let alone, if you have children in the fucking house or something, right? So this is, now just imagine the kind of hate and animosity and, fanaticism behavior like that breeds. And you wonder, it's like, what do you think those people are going to do? Do you think they're going to grow up and like the United States? Do you think they're going to want to not suicide bomb themselves? You know what I'm saying? Like, do you think it's gonna, I mean, seriously, what do you think would happen? Where are those people gonna, what are they gonna do when they grow up? Especially when it's like the occupying fucking, country still has troops there 20 years later. Okay? Like, Donald Trump a couple of days ago talked about how he wants to remove troops from Iraq. Finally. But he's not actually removing the troops from Iraq. Right now we have something like 5,000 troops, which admittedly is way better than, what we had during the height of the war and shit, but still 5,000, that's kind of a lot. And he's drawing it down to 3,000. So he's not going to actually remove them. And then after the election, it's going to go back up to 5,000, because that's what happens, every time. So basically, every time he wants to get the anti-war people on his side, he goes, we're removing troops, and then he draws a few of them down. And then a few months later, they go back up. Because this is the same thing that Obama did for 8 years, right? It's the same thing that George W. Bush did before he left. And it's just like, we can't get a fucking president to, like, commit to actually, like, removing the troops permanently, And who knows, whatever fucking reason it is, whether it's some kind of geopolitical thing against Russia to keep fucking their influence out, or if it's some kind of, geopolitical thing, or whether it's like a counterbalance against Iran, or who knows, who cares? I don't care. All right. Like, if Donald Trump actually removes troops from Iraq and Afghanistan, I'll vote for him. I will. All right. I think he's a piece of shit and I hate him. And I think he's a fucking moron that's destroying the goddamn country. But if he actually did that, if he came up, a week before the election, said all troops are gone, they will be gone within 24 hours, our presence there is done with, then you know what? I'll vote for him. I will. I know that I'm not going to vote for him because he's not going to fucking do that. He will not do that. That's not going to happen. It's probably not going to happen when Joe Biden becomes president either, because, more day by day, it's kind of looking like Joe Biden's going to win. Right? We can talk about that later, but let's say if Joe Biden wins, that's probably not going to happen either, and I already know it, So let's not bullshit ourselves, folks. The military-industrial complex definitely has a hold on the country. Let's see. Let's give this guy a club. Okay. And then we got to put one over here. So we'll just make this like a big demon or goblin head right here. We're just plotting out right now. We're plotting out the composition, right? Because what we had last time, I don't know, the more I look at it, the more I don't like it. So, you know, I'd say we'll just have a big snarling kind of dude here, teeth, you know, and then maybe right here like another monster or something, and then there'll be a tree back here, bushes and shit, and then like another, maybe a bugbear or owlbear or troll, some shit who right here, I don't know, this will just be another dude, you know, standing, maybe he'll have like a spear there. This guy have a spear. Okay, so this is our composition so far, right? Not too bad. Okay, now we can start drawing it and detailing it and shit. And where's my water? Hang on, I need water. All right. So yeah, you know, anyway, we have that happening, right? Two simultaneous wars. The national debt, as of a few minutes ago, was 26 trillion, 636 billion, 913 million, $444,875 as of half an hour ago. It is more than that now, because that's such a large number that the interest on it causes it to just go up and up and up, right? That's where we're at right now. That's our national debt. It's fucking massive, okay? The deficit is so large that we are adding $1 trillion a year to that. Even more, I think. $1.5 trillion a year to that. We did have that down to around $500 billion before Donald Trump got elected. Keep that in mind. We also have a massive trade war with China, which before, you know, was our #1 trading partner. Right? So keep that in mind. That didn't stop. You know, the trade war with China is still going. Okay? So we have, you know, farmers losing millions and millions of dollars, right? And, you know, hundreds and thousands of tons of export crops just sitting in warehouses rotting with no place to go. You know, markets that took decades to solidify, and business relationships that have taken lifetimes to develop gone. Okay, all because of, you know, all in 4 years because of Donald Trump. So it's not like that's not, you know, that didn't just go away, right? That's still happening, right? Trade war with, you know, our biggest fucking trading partner in the goddamn world. I don't know who thought that was such a fucking good idea. Right? That's still happening. In the meantime, we have roughly 200,000 people dead from a pandemic. In fact, you know what? Let's look that up, because we can't go a day without looking up how many people are dead from the pandemic. Virus deaths, USA. Let's see. There are now 194,000 deaths and 6.5 million cases from the pandemic in the United States. Please keep in mind that is not an accurate number. The real number of deaths and cases is probably twice that. Okay? Because we'd still, 6 months into the pandemic, do not have proper contact tracing. We don't have tests for everybody who needs it. You know, I looked into it. It costs like $500 to get a test for COVID-19. It's ridiculous. Okay, so, you know, what's going to happen if somebody thinks they're sick and they got it and they need to get a test and they don't have $500? They're not going to get the test. They're not going to get the test. And if they survive, their case doesn't get counted. How often is that happening in the country? How many people are just staying home, self-isolating, not getting themselves tested, right? So that number, you can't, you know, that's an estimate. That's an estimate. We also know that states such as Florida are not counting. You know, they're not giving us accurate numbers for the number of cases and deaths in their country, in their states. We know that, you know, Florida is deliberately monkeying with that information, as well as Louisiana. They're deliberately, like, you know, so we know that number is not correct, right? Okay. Let's see here. You know what? So one thing I always make. Well, first off, we're gonna make her like a halfling kind of person, right? So you want to make her head a little bigger, and her face a little rounder, right? And let's see. Let's make her eyes a little bigger, because you want her to look more sort of like... Yeah, you know what? I think I just need to start this whole face over. All right, let's start this entire face over. Okay, because since we're making her like a hobbit halfling person, right, then we want to give her a little more character. So let's see. Let's see here. Let's give her bigger eyes. That kind of, like, you know, I'm stepping out of my comfort zone. Okay, so, you know, that's why this is like, you know, I'm talking myself through this, right? And let's make her look a little more surprised, because I was making her look all like angry. So something like this. Surprise. There we go. Kind of bigger, more cute looking, right? Big sort of anime eyes kind of thing. And since we're going to ink this, we don't have to actually do it so, you know, we don't have to like make the lines too dark. We can just kind of detail them as much as we need. Okay, there. That looks better. She's got more of a roundish face. That makes her look a little less threatening. So that's the thing about dwarves and halflings and gnomes and shit, is that you don't want them to look, you know, it's like you don't want them to look like children, but you also don't want them to look like human adults, you know. It's better to have it's sort of like a weird mix. Anyway. Alright, there we go. That looks pretty good. And then, let's see. So, yeah. That's not helping us. Right. We also have 18 million people who have lost their jobs since the pandemic started, which is a lot. Alright. Not all of those people are still jobless. You know, something around 10 million of them are still jobless. Right. Which kind of goes to show, you know, that's still too many. That's way too many. 10 million people right now either out of work or, you know, not able to work because their jobs have closed down or are looking for, you know what I mean? That's on social services, you know, like 10 million people on unemployment. That's unsustainable. That's not, you can't have 10 million people on unemployment. That's just not, you know, not sustainable. Eventually, what's going to happen? Because what's already happening is that the states are starting to run out of money. Right, we can't get the Fed to, you know, pass another fucking stimulus check, right? Let's see here. Hang on one second, guys. Alright. I just need to look up something about some references in regards to clothing, because I'm not really sure what kind of clothes to give her. So that's bad. There are currently between 19 to 23 million people at risk of eviction right now in the country. That's another crisis that we're not getting any help from, you know? I mean, a lot of states out there have eviction freezes, right? And we did have a national one, you know, a federal eviction freeze for a little while. Then that stopped, and then the CDC stepped in to try to like freeze evictions, but it's still going forward in a lot of states. So that's, I mean, imagine, you know, some portion of those people, right, are going to end up homeless. Okay. Why are people getting evicted in the first place? Because they don't have money. Why don't they have money? Because the economy has ground to a fucking halt. It's ground to a halt because of a pandemic that has closed, you know, something like 40% of all small businesses in the entire country. You know, something like 100,000 small businesses have closed permanently in the country, right? So even if tomorrow, if Donald Trump got on TV and said, we have a vaccine and it's free and we have enough for every man, woman, and child in the country and you can get it at your local Taco Bell, and everybody went out and got a vaccine and everything was back to normal tomorrow, that still means 100,000 small businesses closed up permanently, right? Gone. Okay, well, you know, something like 50% of the people in the country, like, get their, you know, employment through small businesses. All right. So what is that, you know, so that's a lot. That's a lot. Okay. You know, we're counting, I mean, is this number of people who are out of work, is it counting small business owners? Right? Like, you know, that's another, it's an estimate that we don't know how accurate it is. Right? I mean, fuck, man. And, you know, I'm even seeing around here people who are trying to open new businesses and it's just not working. You know, like in the area that I live in, it's actually very nice. I live in kind of an upper class kind of area. And I'm seeing, you know, there's this square that has a lot of little restaurants and like, you know, antique stores and boutiques, shit like that. And at any given time throughout the year, this place will have like 3 or 4 little shops that go out of business and then start up again and then go out of business. Like, you know, and it's kind of like that, right? You know, something like 50% of all small businesses fail anyway, right? On at any given, you know, any given business, you know, something like 50% of them will just naturally fail in the first place, right? And I'm even seeing since this began, you know, one after the other, because the apparently this plaza is a very like attractive spot. You know, something will close and then another one will open and then a month later it'll close and then another one will open, right? And it's like open, close, and you can, you know, so it's like, man, like they can't, you know, because people aren't out there spending money in the same way, right? I think they want to. I think people want to. I think we have pent up demand, you know, because what I am seeing is restaurants seem to be doing okay. The big restaurants, that is. Big restaurants are doing fine. Little restaurants are fucked, right? Small restaurants that don't have outside seating, pretty much screwed. I mean, I know it's not like that around the entire country, but I can only talk about California, and I can only talk about the parts of California where I see on a, you know, regular basis. So I don't know, Northern California might be different, right? But Southern California, it's like, you know, there's no indoor seating. Everything's either takeout or you have to sit outside. And I am seeing that popular restaurants that were already popular seem to be doing okay. You know, chain restaurants, ones that were like, you know, if they were packed before the pandemic started, the outside patio will be packed now. But are they making the same amount of money? You know, outside seating is usually maybe a fourth of what's on the inside, right? And you think about it, because, you know, I used to wait tables, so I know about this shit, you know, and some of them have tried to expand into the parking lot and shit like that, and it's like, well, you know, you don't need a full wait staff. If all you have is outside seating and takeout, you don't need to employ 6 waiters. You need 2. You know, maybe 2, maybe one guy to, you know, because there'll only be 12 tables, something like that. You know, whereas like say a large sized restaurant that would have something like 20 or 30 tables, maybe you might have 12 of them that are outside. You know, one guy can handle that pretty fucking easy. Right? So it's sort of like, you know, even though the restaurant might be staying afloat, are they making money? Are they employing even close to the same amount of people that they used to employ? Probably not. So it's like, you know, they're probably just barely staying afloat. All right. Um, let's see. Let's give her a dress. Dress that comes down like that. All right, there we go. Pushing myself, folks. Pushing myself. So yeah, man, you know, something like, I think I was looking it up, it's something around 7.5 million small businesses in the country are at risk of closing. Like, you know, many of those permanently. Okay. If that is allowed to happen, I mean, you know, we think the economy's bad now, right? If that is, you know, that's like beyond Great Depression numbers. You know, the Great Depression, I mean, if you look, the Great Depression was something, it was like 20% unemployment in like 1930s, right? I mean, if that shit happens, if 7.5 million small businesses go out of business permanently in the country, we're looking at a mega depression. We're looking at something that will last, and that will last years. Years. You know, even with all of the everything that the government can do, grants and loans and, you know, 0% interest rates, and I don't like that ear. I have to move that ear a little further in. And all of that shit, it's gonna take, you know, more than a decade for that to like turn around. I mean, can you fucking believe that? It's astronomical. That never, I can't even think about how fucking like crazy that shit'll be, you know, for that. And in the meantime, stock market's fucking going bananas. I guess there was a little bit of a downturn, you know, recently, right? So it's like, you know, the upper 1% is rolling in dough right now. They don't give a fuck about us, right? I don't know. So while all of this shit's happening, while the economy's fucking toast, while on the national stage we've got like wars and shit still fucking happening, you know, millions of people are out of work, 200,000 people are dead. In the meantime, the economy, I mean, not the economy, in the meantime, you know, the environment is basically falling apart. You know, right now we have on the west coast of the country massive wildfires. And the thing is, it's like right now in California, they've already basically hit like a milestone of like the most acres burned ever during a wildfire season. And it's not even over. The wildfire season isn't even over. We still have, you know, it goes all the way until November. Okay, so basically until like the end of November is wildfire season. So it's like there's still like 3 months to go, you know. I mean, Jesus Christ. So it's like not even, I mean, we're like, what, halfway done? And we're already at a fucking world record, right? Unbelievable. And it's not just California this time. Oregon is seeing massive, gigantic wildfires as well, which kind of makes me think that now shit will start to happen. Now they might actually start taking it seriously. Because Oregon is a swing state. So California, and this kind of links back to my video I made a few weeks ago talking about the Electoral College. See, California is solidly blue, and it has been solidly blue for the last, oh god, what, 6 elections since 1988, right? You know, 1984, I think, was the last time California was red. That was Ronald Reagan. So how many elections has it been since then? You know, at least, what, 7 elections, I think. I think this will be the 8th election. since Ronald Reagan, and it's been just solidly blue all the way up through there. So California is not a swing state; it's a solidly blue state. So politicians don't usually give a shit what happens in solid states. Not really, because they know that no one's going to hold them accountable, and they know that at least, as far as the president goes and Congress, they know that they're pretty much safe, right? I mean, maybe not so much for the House, or the governorship. I mean, you got to remember California also had Republican governors very often, right? California is not as conservative as ever. I mean, it's not as liberal as everybody thinks. We had conservative Republican governors, Schwarzenegger and Pete Wilson and shit like that. And Ronald Reagan was from California, so you got to think about that. It is much more conservative in California than everybody believes. It's just that we have large population centers, Los Angeles, San Francisco, San Diego, that tip the state towards, and make it a blue state. Right. But, they don't really listen to us because, especially the right wing demonizes California constantly. I mean, I talked about this a little bit in the last stream, right? So, but now we have, wildfires affecting Oregon, right? And other states out there. There's pretty much something like, I don't know, I didn't really count how many, but there were like several dozen wildfires across the entire country going on right now. And in Oregon, it's really bad. There was something like an entire town got wiped out in Oregon. And that makes me think that now we're going to start seeing the candidates talking about it, giving lip service to it, at the very least. And maybe some of those federal dollars might come our way, and we might actually see some like real fucking progress in stopping this shit, right? That's what I'm hoping. And it sucks to say that, but that's how it is, man. It's kind of fucked up. Maybe it wouldn't be like that, right? If everybody's vote was the fucking same. If everybody's vote counted. Okay, so anyhow, let's see. So here's our halfling, I guess, so that we don't get sued, because you can't call her a hobbit since the hobbit is like copyrighted. So we'll call her halfling. Our halfling heroine with a dagger. Let's see. I don't like that leg. Let's give her an anklet. Anyway, on the East Coast, so that's on the West Coast. On the East Coast, we have hurricanes. Again, every year, a giant hurricane. So hurricanes usually happen on the East Coast, but just seems like every single year they keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And, it seems like you'd have a 100-year storm about every 100 years before, and now it's like every 2 or 3 years we're having a 100-year storm. Let's not forget, we had Katrina, and then we had, hurricane that completely destroys fucking Puerto Rico, absolutely annihilates it, and it's just like, it's something that, like clockwork, it's getting worse and worse and worse, and it's because global, climate change, right, is exasperating these problems, right? And we're facing, the thing about all this, these are all problems that we've had in the past many times before. We've had wars in the past. We've had storms and wildfires. We've had even, civil strife in the country, division, protests. We've had all of these problems before, right? But we've never had all of them at the same time. We've never had a massive pandemic and millions of people out of work and 7.5 million small businesses about to go out of business and giant wildfires and hurricanes and floods in the Midwest and all of this shit happening all at the same time when our government was so dysfunctional that they they couldn't even do anything about it. See, right now, our government is so dysfunctional right now that we can't even get an additional stimulus package passed. They've given us an extra $600, right, per for unemployment, and $1,200. That's what people got, and not everybody even got that, and that is far, far less than what people in other countries are getting. Far less, people in England, what they did in England is they basically socialized wages. And they said, don't lay anybody off. We, the government, will pay 70% of their wages if you do not fire them. That's what they did in England. And, England does not have a 10% unemployment rate now because of that, okay? Canada, and I say this in every stream, and I'm saying it again, okay? Canada gave everybody $2,000 a month during the entire, length of the lockdown. Basically saying, you can't work because we're closing shit down. Here's $2,000 to keep everybody's businesses running and to keep unemployment from reaching astronomical heights and to keep our economy from collapsing. That's what they did in Canada, right? Japan didn't have to do that at all because everybody in Japan wore masks. So they didn't even shut down in Japan. They closed schools for a little while, right? They're back up and running. And guess what? Japan doesn't have 200,000 people dead, right? Why are they able to do all of this and we're not? How come, what do they have that we don't have? And this bears repeating. It bears repeating because, yeah, I did say this in my last stream, a couple streams ago, not last stream. It bears repeating. What do they have that we don't have, right? They don't have our ridiculous, dysfunctional government, right? They don't have a government where people debate for 3 months about a $1,200 stimulus bill and then go on vacation without passing it, right? And the reason why that is happening is, let's not bullshit ourselves, folks. It's because of the GOP. In the Congress, in the Senate right now, right? Like Mitch McConnell is fighting for, trying to get something passed, right? His thing, he doesn't actually give a shit about the stimulus. He wants to pass liability laws so that you can't sue your employer for making you go back to work, right? And if your employer does not take the proper procedures in order to stop the spread of COVID-19, he wants to make it so you can't sue them. So, you work in a factory or something, you work in a restaurant, your employer, basically, if they come to you and say you're not allowed to wear a mask here, and if your state doesn't have a mask mandate like California does, right? And you catch the disease, he wants to make it so that you can't sue him. And according to Mitch McConnell, you had a choice not to go back to work. That's what, even though they're taking away the unemployment and they won't give us another stimulus. This is what Mitch McConnell wants, all right? He doesn't, and that's why, the Democrats basically told him to go piss up a rope, and they didn't sign on to it because it's bullshit. Because what the Democrats want is actual help for real people. So in this instance, I know a lot of people say shit like, they say things like, oh, they're all the same, they're both the same, both parties are the same, blah blah blah. Bullshit. Not in this case. No, they're not. The Democrats want to actually help people. Bernie Sanders is trying to give everybody $2,000 a month, the same thing that Canada's doing, right? That's what he's trying to do. Fucking Chuck Schumer is trying to actually get some real help to small businesses, right? Actual real help, money that will really go out to them. That because right now, the stimulus money that did go out is basically at, like, Steve Mnuchin has the ability to just dole that out to anybody, without any recompense. You know, he doesn't have to like say who he's giving it to, right? There's no record of it. You can't go look up where the stimulus money went, right? So for all we know, he could just be giving it to his friends, and that's most likely what he's doing, right? So fucking, you know, Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi want to make that accountable. They want to make it like, no, you're not allowed to just give this to, you know, you have to actually give it to businesses that need it, and not just your friends, so that they can fucking do stock buybacks, right? And inflate the stock market. Why do you think the stock market was doing so well during a pandemic, you know, with 10 million people losing their jobs, yet the stock market is fucking flying high? Why? Because they're doing stock buybacks. Because Steve Mnuchin is handing out treasury money, and he's direct, you know, and the Fed, the Federal Reserve, is, you know, basically just giving money away to corporations and shit like that with no strings attached. Well, you know, what happens if you own a business, right? Let's say you own a business and you make, you know, I don't know, whatever the fuck it is you make. You know, you make pencils, okay? And you have a business, and your business, you know, demand is down. Nobody's buying your pencils because everybody's out of work. Then the government gives you $100,000 and says, here's $100,000. Do whatever you want with it. What are you going to do with that money, right? You could take it and put it into your business, right? You could hire somebody with it. You could buy new pencil making equipment, whatever. But if no one out there is buying pencils, if no one's buying your product, does it make sense to expand your business? No, it doesn't. It does not make sense to expand your business when you have no demand. So what do these businesses do with it? Well, they go, oh, I could buy back my stocks that are out there, because that makes my stocks go up, and it artificially inflates, you know, it artificially inflates the price of my stock, and I get more money, and it makes my business look better than it actually is. And especially if you're a CEO that has no actual attachment to that business, if you're just a CEO that they hired and you don't really give a shit about it, and all of your compensation is through stocks anyway, then that makes perfect sense. Here's all this money that is just going to be wasted if I try to put it back into the business, and might as well make myself rich with it. And that's what happened. And that's why every time there's a big tax cut, when there's a Republican tax cut, every time the stock market goes up and there's a huge bubble. That's what happened during Bush's tax cut. That's what happened when Ronald Reagan cut taxes. That's what happened when Donald Trump cut taxes. Right. Because cutting taxes for a business does not mean the business is going to invest that money that they would be paying in taxes in the business. They will not do that unless there's demand, increased demand for their product. Right now, we're basically living in a fucking, depression right now. So cutting taxes or just giving money to businesses doesn't make any fucking sense right now. What we need to be doing is giving money to the consumer, right? That's how capitalism works. See, like it or hate it, we live in a capitalistic society, right? And in capitalism, if there's no demand for products or services, then no one's going to waste their money supplying products or services that people aren't demanding. So we need to get some money into the hands of normal people. Normal people. Right? But here's the thing. It has to be disposable. Okay? Because if you just give someone a tax cut, right, and if they have, let's say the average person who got their $1,200 paid off bills with it, okay, that doesn't really do much to spurn the economy. If you are behind on your bills and they're going to shut your water or your power off and you get $1,200, you know, you're going to keep your lights on, right? You're going to pay your rent, right? Shit like that. What we need to have is enough money so that people want to go out and buy luxury goods with it. Okay? Because that's what fuels the economy, you know, luxury goods and services. So, not just paying bills, but buying new cars, you know, buying PlayStation 4s, buying clothes, shit like that, shopping retail, you know, going places. Well, we can't really go anywhere because of the fucking pandemic, but you get the idea, right? That's what actually spurns the economy. And if we're not if people don't have the money to make those types of purchases, then you see a downturn, right? And maybe other economic systems you won't have that same problem. You know, things that are not based on supply and demand. I don't know. I'm sure there probably are some people out there that could school me a lot about how alternative economic systems would work. Whether they would or not is a different story, but this is what we got right now in the country. Right. And, you know, getting back to it, we can't even, you know, my point here for all of this was that this is what we need in order to keep shit afloat. Not just to make things better, right? Just to keep things the way they were. And our Congress is so hyper-partisan and non-functional that we can't even keep that going, right? They can't even agree to give a fucking stimulus to people, okay? And I don't know if you know this, part of the reason is because a lot of Republicans out there don't even think that we need it. You know, something like, you know, it was like a third of Republicans out there. I had a link to a Pew Research study on it. I'll see if I can dig it up. But something like a third of Republicans polled last month don't even think we need a stimulus, right? These are the same third of Republicans that own boats that drive by real fast and make other little boats sink, by the way. Okay. But so it's like, you know, that's why. All right. That's why it's not happening. So basically, you know, you're in Congress, you're getting letters from people saying, you know, fuck the poor people. Right. And so that's why they're not going to vote for any stimulus. It's, you know, and you know why people are saying that? You know why a third of Republicans say we don't need a stimulus? Because Donald Trump is saying that. That's why. Because Donald Trump is sitting there going, oh, we're doing great, we're employing more people than ever, and he's just basically making up a bunch of ridiculous bullshit, right, that has no fucking basis in reality. And, you know, his people that follow him are so fucking stupid that they're just buying it hook, line, and sinker because they don't actually listen to any real news. And, you know, they're usually a little more well off because older Americans tend to have more money because they're old and they work their whole lives. And, you know, older Republicans especially, right, who tend to be retired or getting close to retirement, tend to be upper middle class, right? And they're saying, well, hey, the president's saying that we don't fucking need a stimulus anyway because the economy is doing way better and nobody's done better than I have and blah, 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 blah. And so it's like, what incentive do the Republicans in Congress have to giving us more stimulus? When in real life, it's like the majority of people out there are fucking hurting. You know, that's the shitty part about it. See, this is what happens when you're not politically active. You know, if all of those people right now were writing their congressmen, emailing their congressmen, you know, going and visiting and talking to their congress people at their offices or their staff members, protesting, saying if this is what if all those people were doing this, we'd be seeing something different. They're not doing it. They're barely able to fucking survive. They will when 7.5 million small businesses go out of business permanently. And when we start seeing bread lines and shit like that in this country, when people don't have work, they have all the time in the world to go protest. And that's going to start happening pretty soon here. So, you know, I don't think, see, I know we're talking doom and gloom here, but I don't think people understand. Like, the shit has just started to hit the fan. Okay, it's like it's not even close to hitting the fan right now. It's gonna hit the fan way harder, and it's gonna get way worse right now. I think any chance we had of negating this went away in, a couple of months ago, right? And this could have been avoided. That's the thing about it. If our leadership in government, Donald Trump in Congress and, the Republicans in Congress would have done the right thing, actually enacted some policies that helped people, if Donald Trump didn't try to fucking play COVID-19 for political gain, I don't know if you guys saw that story. I actually talked about it 2 streams ago, where it was talked about Jared Kushner setting up a coronavirus task force and deciding to basically pare it back because the pandemic was hitting the blue states more than it was the red states. I don't know if you guys remember that. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's true. That's actually happened. They tried to play it off, and they tried to blame, thinking that they could blame the Democrats for the pandemic because it was hitting blue states harder than red states. This is not bullshit. This is true shit, folks. Despicable. It's despicable, and they didn't, realize that, well, a virus doesn't have politics, and it goes where it wants. So now we're seeing in red states, and now the red states are all the hot spots, Florida, Alabama, Louisiana. Those places are starting to flare up. And when you go to places like New York, it's starting to go down. The places, New York and California, the places that were like major hot spots when this all started, starting to flare down a little bit there. And it's like, it's almost like, hey, it's a virus. It doesn't give a shit about your politics. Almost like, what do they say? The Republicans like to say so much, facts don't care about your feelings, right? Yeah, well, viruses don't care about your politics. Oh no. If only they would have done the right fucking thing to begin with, the shit would be over with. And other countries are starting to open up, and that's why you're starting to see in places like Germany and stuff like that, there's been a little bit of a resurgence. Why is that? Why are their numbers going up a little bit? It's because they're starting to reopen things. They're starting to allow people to go out and movie theaters and go out to eat, and they're lessening the mask restrictions a little bit, stuff like that. And the numbers are starting to crawl up again. And that's to be expected when you reopen things that have been closed for a long time. The virus, it has not gone away. It's not over, all right? And it's not going to be over for a while. And right now there's a lot of talk about a vaccine that they're going to announce in October. Yeah. Let's just say I believe it when I see it. Okay. Because vaccines usually take years to create. And here's what you got to keep in mind. All right. There is a concerted effort among dozens of countries out there, where they're doing vaccine trials. And, some countries, like in Europe, are actually like, they're doing the research, and then other countries in like, say, India and like Africa and stuff, they're like, people are volunteering to take it to be part of the control groups, and they're doing, multiple trials at the same time, usually when they would be staggered, and it would take 6 months for this one and a year for that one, blah, blah, blah. Now they're doing it all at once. And there's this massive effort underway to, get a vaccine out there as soon as humanly possible, right? The United States is not involved in that. Okay, we're not involved in that because that's being run through the WHO, right? Donald Trump took us out of the WHO. Okay, we're no longer funding the WHO. We're no longer part of that. We're going it alone here. The worst possible fucking time, right? Keep that in mind. You know why he's not because he basically blames this vaccine on the WHO because he needs somebody to blame. He needed someone to blame, right? Because, it couldn't be his fucking fault for not acting appropriately. So he blamed the WHO for the pandemic and withdrew funding, and he pulled the United States out of it at the worst possible time, right? And, so now all the other countries are working together. The United States is working alone to create our own vaccine. There is no way in hell you can get a vaccine out in less than a year, when it's one country by itself. I would even be, if next month the WHO came up and said, we have a vaccine, I'd be skeptical of that vaccine. Vladimir Putin in Russia is talking about how they're going to have a vaccine soon and they'll be the first country. I'm skeptical of that vaccine, okay? Do you trust the Russians to come up with a fucking bullshit? Bullshit. All right. Do you really think there was enough testing involved? And, it's not like, it'll be harmless. All right. This shit can fucking kill you. You got to remember, like, vaccines have side effects too. Okay. And if it's not thoroughly tested, you don't know what those side effects are. So it could interact with some other medication you're taking. I take high blood pressure medication, right? I'm actually a risk factor for, COVID-19. Am I going to risk myself some untested vaccine that, didn't really go through clinical testing? Who knows what's in it? Directed by a fucking, like, dictator in Russia. Am I going to take that? Fuck no. I'm not taking that vaccine. Not right away. You know what? I'll take it. I'm gonna wait a few months, right, and read up on it and make sure that the people who take it don't have their fucking livers exploding, right, or their fucking noses falling off or some shit, right? I'm not gonna be an early adapter to any fucking vaccine that was rushed out without proper testing. Fuck that. Sorry, I'm not gonna do it. I'll stay inside and not go to the movies and work from home remotely and wear a mask outside like I've been doing, because because it's not trustworthy, right? Because, science, you can't rush science, all right? Science is not some shit that you can just skip or, like, do when you feel like it. And who fucking knows what it'll really, shit has side effects. I mean, people don't understand that, right? So, and I'm not some kind of fucking anti-vaxxer here. All right? No, I believe in science, I believe in vaccines, right? I mean, fuck. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'll take any, whatever, right? If a vaccine is proven safe, I'm all over it. All right? I don't believe that any of these that basically they're going to announce it in October, right? There's going to be some kind of fucking announcement. And if they do actually try to say that they really have a vaccine, be my guest. Be my guest and take it. I'm not taking shit until that is proven to be safe. When it's proven to be safe, and you know what? At this point, I will not accept the word of any of Trump's appointees, right? Because we know that he appoints people that tell him what he wants to hear. What he wants to hear now is that he has a fucking vaccine. And sorry, I'm not trusting anybody from the Trump administration. I will trust doctors from the WHO. If the WHO says it's safe, then I'll take it. All right. So, anyway, but still, I mean, how do we even get on the subject? Oh yeah, so shit is hitting the fan. Our Congress can't fucking do anything about it. Our president can't find his ass with both hands. Right? With both hands, because he didn't take it seriously. He's in over his fucking head. And he doesn't care about people to begin with because he's a fucking sociopath. So it's like this incredibly bad combination of, sociopathic bordering on fucking psychopathic tendencies and, rich man kind of I don't give a shit about other people sort of uh, arrogance. It's this combination of all of that along with like, you know, a guy who just doesn't seem to understand reality is not what you just say it is. Right? It's basically, you know, the truth is a very fluid thing for Donald Trump. We all know that. The guy lies at the drop of a hat. The guy lies when he doesn't have to lie. Right? So it's like, you know, it's no wonder that we failed so hard in this regard. And it's no wonder that the country is so fucked up right now. And so many fucking things are wrong. It's like we have the worst possible person to help us during these crises. Because that's what they are, folks. They're crises, right? We have an environmental crisis, unlike anything we've faced ever as a species, you know, right now. You know, something like, and I remember I actually wrote this down here, right? Now keep in mind, this article is 1 year old. Okay. Let me turn this on, because this is some disturbing shit right here. Okay, this is from The Guardian, okay? And remember, this article is from last year. It's from 2018, actually, right? Humanity has wiped out 60% of animal populations since 1970. So that means all of the fish, reptiles, mammals, amphibians, birds, gone. 60% of those. And these are not just animals that are endangered. These are animals which are not endangered. It's 60% of all animal populations gone since 1970. So I don't think you guys can imagine that. This is absolutely ridiculous. This is going to lead to, I mean, imagine if, you know, what's 1970? What, 40 years ago? 50 years? 50 years ago, 1970? Jesus Christ, I'm old. Right. Can you imagine what's going to happen to us in another 50 years? I mean, what's that going to be? You know, 90%? Right? You know, you can't, it's unsustainable. And it's unsustainable. And let's, you know, because first off, you know, I remember growing up, people would talk about shit like this. They would say, oh yeah, you know, the fish are dying and the fucking whales are dying and shit. And your kid, well, when they grow up, they'll never get to see what a humpback whale looks like. Isn't that sad? Right? Well, now when your kids grow up, they're not going to know what a fish tastes like because there's not going to be any fish. So they will never, imagine never eating a fish ever in your entire fucking life because there are no fish. Right? And fishing is going to have to be banned around the fucking world. But we know that's not going to really do anything because there are countries out there that don't actually give a shit about wildlife bans, like China and Thailand and Indonesia, right? And wherever else the fuck that, you know, don't give a fuck about environmentalism. And we know that, you know, so basically the fish are gone. Fuck it. It's over. They're, you know, within 50 years, there will be no more fish. I don't think you understand that, okay? Get that, everybody out there watching, you know, because there's a couple of viewers watching right now. You know, think about that. No more fish. Right. In the entire world. Okay. What does that mean? That means, well, you'll still have fish farms, right? But you want to eat, you know, some tilapia. It's going to cost you $500 a fucking ounce. So that's the first thing. So, you know, we're not going to get any fucking fish anywhere, right? No more insects. You know, we're already seeing problems with bees, you know, with pollinating insects, right? They call it hive collapse disorder. You know, without pollinating insects, there's no crops, right? There's no honey, of course. There's no almonds. There's no coffee. All right, no more coffee, no more almonds, no more any crop that pollinates. Gone. Okay, what does that leave? What, wheat? Does wheat pollinate? I don't know. Let's look that up. I'm not even really sure. Wheat is self-pollinating. Okay, so I guess we'll still have wheat, you know. Bananas are going extinct. I don't know if you guys have heard about that. There's all of the bananas that you buy in the grocery store are clones, because bananas that we used to eat went extinct in the 1950s. So they cloned some other bananas, and modern bananas taste shittier than bananas that were available in the 50s. I didn't know that. I just found that out not that long ago. But since all of the bananas we eat are cloned, there's a fungus that has adapted to that and is now laying waste to banana populations spurred on by global climate change. So say bye-bye to bananas within the next 10 to 20 years. Gone. Will we still have beef? We'll probably have beef. It'll probably just be extremely expensive. So, say bye-bye to hamburgers unless you're rich. Right? So what the fuck are people going to eat when there are no animals, What are we going to eat? Corn? Corn and fucking tortillas, I guess. I guess that's all that's going to be left. All right. I guess it's a good time to become a vegetarian. I mean, shit. Impossible burgers are actually pretty good. I don't know if any of you out there, some of my more conservative viewers probably don't eat soybean stuff. Probably don't eat soybean stuff because you've been told that it turns you into a fucking, makes you grow tits or some ridiculous bullshit like that. And if you actually believe any shit like that, you're a moron. Let's get that out of the way right away. Soy products do not make you grow boobs if you're a man. They do not make your dick shrink. That's bullshit. They do not have estrogen in them. That's a load of fucking crap. Anybody who says that is a fucking idiot. And, if you really believe that eating soybean-based products is going to, threaten your fucking masculinity, then I have a bridge, and 2 highways to sell you, because that's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my entire life. But, that's the alt-right for you. Anyway. But yeah, if you've never had an Impossible Burger, I recommend go getting one at Burger King. You can't tell the difference, right? And you might as well get used to it, because that's what you're going to be eating in the future when you want to go get a hamburger. You're going to have to eat that, because there's not going to be any beef, right? There's not going to be any beef. You're going to have to, if you like fish, you're going to be eating soy imitation fish, because there's not going to be any fish, all right? There'll probably be chickens still. Probably. It's probably just going to be super fucking expensive. So, get used to it, folks. This is what's happened. See, and here's the thing. Because for 30 years, 40 years, people on the left have been trying to raise the alarm that this is what's going to happen. Global warming. What did we hear from the right wing the whole time? We heard global warming was a hoax. For years and years and years. What was it? Al Gore 20 years ago, puts out a fucking movie trying to get to the masses. Puts out a movie trying to appeal to the mass, the mass fucking, mass appeal in America, trying to get people to take it seriously, fucking Inconvenient Truth and shit like that. And what did we hear back from the right wing, from, the Tea Party people, from the people who are now Trump supporters? It's bullshit. It's made up. There is no such thing as global warming. There's no such thing as climate change. We can't control it. Blah, blah, blah. The earth goes through fucking natural cycles. Now we're dealing with it, okay? And they just kept putting it off. And, we tried to fucking do some shit. We had the Paris Accords. We had the Kyoto Protocols. Conservatives just wouldn't sign on to that shit. And, they elect fucking a big, fat, blowhard scam artist who pulled us out of all of that, right? And now, Now shit is hitting the fan, and it's starting to affect their states. It's starting to affect red states as well, because they didn't give a shit when it was only California. They didn't care when it was only New York getting hit by fucking hurricanes, or Puerto Rico getting hit by hurricanes. They didn't care when it was California getting burned down every year. But now the shit's happening to their fucking states. Now they're starting to turn around. Now even the alt-right is starting to say shit like, oh, you know, global warming, global climate change is real. Shit's hitting the fan. You know, now they're starting to fucking believe it. Right. Even though it's still something only like 30% of Republicans still think that climate change is actually a problem. Sorry, it was 27%. 27% of Republicans think climate change is a serious threat. You know, it's still, that's growing. That's way up from where it was during the Bush years. Because it's undeniable. That's why. Give it 5 years. That number is going to be 60%. Give it another 5 years, it'll be 90%. Okay? Because it's just getting worse and worse and worse and more and more and more undeniable as it goes on. And there's only so long that you can bullshit yourself, you know, until it's like, it's kind of like if you have cancer. If you have cancer, you might feel some weird pains in your body, something like that. You know, you might notice some strange shit. And most people will just be in denial. That's the first stage, right? For a little while. Oh, there's nothing wrong with me. Oh, I'm just getting old. Oh, this is just some weird shit that's happening, right? Whatever, I'll be fine, blah, blah, blah. You know, there's only so long that you can be in denial, that you can bullshit yourself to saying that you don't have a problem, right? That only goes so far. And then pretty soon, you know, you gotta face fucking reality. And if you don't face reality, you die. That's where we're at now. We're being forced to face reality. Shit that if we would have done this, you know, 20 years ago, like the liberals and progressives wanted to, right? Like the environmentalists have been saying, if we would have made these changes decades ago, when it would have been 10 times cheaper and 10 times easier than it is now, might not be that big of a fucking problem, but too late for that, you know. Anyway. So, I hate to say I told you so, but I am saying it, because fuck you people. So, alright, so this is what we got here. So, this is, I think, much better looking than what we had last week. Because what we had last week looked like shit. So, yeah, kind of got our hobbit girl lost in the woods, being surrounded by goblin men or something. Right. Not too bad, you know. Alright. I know this stream is just basically me, like, fucking ranting and raving for an hour, but, you know, it's because shit is frustrating out there. It's frustrating. It's like we're starting to see the world fall apart. And it didn't have to be like this, folks. It didn't have to be like this. And the reason why it's like this is because of Republicans. Let's be real, all right? This is why shit is falling apart. Because the Republicans, specifically, you know, the right wing in general, but, you know, so all right, I'm not going to say just Republicans. I'm going to say the right wing. It's because of the right wing. It's because of conservatives, right? It's because we have half of the country that is in denial that these problems are problems. And they don't want to do anything about it because the only thing they care about is making the other side cry. Right. It's kind of like when you know, you ever play sports, right? I mean, I wasn't really that big into sports, but, you know, I would occasionally play basketball, stuff like that. When you know you can't win a game, then it becomes all about making the other team fight every inch for the remaining score. So that's basically it. So if you're really far behind in a basketball game, what do? Right? Or just any sports game in general. What do? You know, kind of like also in a war. What do you do? If you're really far behind, if there's no way you can actually win, do you just give up? Or yeah, maybe if you have some sportsmanship, maybe you play to the best of your ability, right? But if you're a fucking sore loser and an asshole, you just start griefing the other side for everything that you can do. You know, you start bending the rules a little bit, start putting some fouls, shit like that. Maybe like injure somebody, one of their best guys, so that they can't, you start cheating, right? You generally start making the other team pay for it every single way that you can. And it's kind of the same way when the Nazis were losing the war and Hitler knew that his time was up. And what did they do? Did they just surrender? Nope. They went through and they started doing things like bombing highways, pulling up train tracks, destroying factories, basically ruining anything that the Allies could get their hands on to help them. Even when they knew it was over, when they knew they had no way of winning the war, they basically destroyed their own infrastructure. They destroyed their own country rather than let it fall into the hands of the enemy. That's kind of what the GOP does, right? Even though right now the GOP runs everything. All right, this is why you gotta remember this. Okay, the Democrats have one half of one branch of government right now, right? They're not running shit. They're not making, the policies that are actually governing the country come from the Republicans right now. They have the majority of state legislatures. They have the majority of governors of, in the country, right? They have the presidency. They have the Senate. And when I say that, what I mean is Congress, the Senate. They have the majority of judges that have been applied. I mean, not applied. Judges that have been appointed since Trump. I mean, he's appointed something like 200 federal judges. They have the Supreme Court. They have everything. Okay. If they wanted to pass some relief, it would happen. All right. If they wanted to do something about wildfires on the West Coast, right, something would get done. Okay. If they wanted to send, some relief money, right, maybe a federal program to like administer some of the, federal national parks so that, maybe some controlled burns or something, or getting volunteers to go out there and cut brush or some shit like that, or even, dare I say it, some real solutions to these problems, like getting us off of fossil fuels, right? If they wanted to subsidize, let's say, subsidize the manufacture of, solar panels in the country, right? So that to make it competitive with nuclear, right? Because, the nuclear industry gets subsidized up the yin-yang by the federal government, right? Solar panels, not so much. So that's really the only reason why nuclear power, and really the only reason why oil and gas is competitive, is because of federal subsidies, right? They could change that in a nanosecond by subsidizing wind and solar, And it's not like other countries haven't done it, Germany right now gets 50% of its power from renewable sources, We could do the same thing, right? We could, with comparatively very little investment, Pretty much the same amount of money that we invest in oil and natural gas every year. If we invested that much into renewables, we could do a lot to, get off of fossil fuels and cut down on our emissions, right? And curtail fucking global climate change. And then maybe we might see the California wildfire season start to kind of shrink a little bit. Maybe we might see like less gigantic storms on the East Coast every year, or less massive floods in the fucking middle of the country every year. We're not doing that because there's no political will, right? And there's no political will because the country's being run by Republicans right now, and they don't give a shit. They don't give a shit, right? They support traditional energy, like Donald Trump says. I support coal. It's clean coal. You scrub it, blah blah blah. That makes it clean. It's like, get the fuck out of here. So fucking ridiculous. They've already kind of shown us where they're at. They're not going to do shit to stop it. They know it's a problem. Here's the thing, all right? You think that Republicans in Congress and the heads of corporations, especially energy companies, do you think they don't know that this is a problem? That carbon emissions is what causes global climate change? Do you think they don't know that? Of course they fucking know it. They've known it for decades, all right? They've known this for years. They don't care. They don't care because this is how they make their money. So this is what, when people say shit like capitalism is destroying the world, this is what they're fucking talking about, all right? This actually is destroying the fucking world right now. It has the potential to destroy civilization, okay? In more ways than one, right? I mean, we haven't even talked about things like, shortage of clean water supplies due to, global climate change. We haven't even touched on that. We're at the very, like I said before, we're at the very beginning of shit hitting the fan in the world here, right? And it's just gonna get 10 times worse. We've had one superbug that's shown up. How many more of them are out there underneath the Siberian permafrost? Right? What if a corpse freezes out that's been frozen for 100 years from the Siberian permafrost, and then, suddenly we got the fucking Spanish flu again? That's a real possibility, okay? There's no reason to think something like that might not happen. I mean, shit, COVID-19 came from a goddamn bat, that's been around this whole fucking time, just waiting for us to stumble on it, Who's to say this is the only one that is going to happen? No, there's going to be more. There's going to be more because, our species doesn't have its shit together, right? I mean, this is not it. People think like, okay, yeah, 2020 is such a horrible fucking year. It's not like on January 1st, 2021, all of this shit goes away. All right? No, it's here to stay, folks. All right? Wildfires next year are going to be even worse than they are this year. All right? Seriously. I mean, so I don't know, folks. There's not a lot of bright spots in the future right now. And it's like, I feel bad for anybody that's born today. I feel bad for children today. Their quality of life in the future is going to be way less than what mine was growing up. I'm sure the awesome video games will make up for it. Right? But anyway, I wanted to talk about, because yeah, you might hear through this stream I'm blaming a lot of these things on conservatives and Republicans, and I am because they're the ones standing in the way of all of this shit. Why do they stand in the way? Right, they stand in the way because they have an alternative media sphere of talking heads and scam artists that make millions and millions, if not billions of dollars off of scaring them, right, into buying their books and supporting their sponsors and shit like that. That's where all of this comes from. That's why only 29% of Republicans think that global warming is an actual problem in the country. It's because for 30, 40 years, people like Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh and Laurel Ingraham and, you know, all the other imitators have been telling them this, right? And now it's even worse because we have the internet and people can just basically isolate themselves into little, self-contained media communities on Facebook and social media. They don't have to listen to news they don't like. If they go to CNN and they see a story that they don't agree with or something like that, then they can just choose to go to their own media and get their own alternative media that tells them something they like to hear. And so that's why we have the things like the Fox Newses and the One America networks and all those other places that have, where it's been demonstrated that if you consume that media, you are less informed about what's actually going on in the world. It's a hobby of mine to go to places like Reddit and like forums and things, although I noticed that the number of forums out there is starting to shrink. Places where you used to go to bulletin boards and forums to like talk and debate with people, those are starting to go away. Although there's still a few of them out there. But, it's a hobby of mine to debate conservatives, right? And when I first started doing it, it was a lot more, back when the internet was somewhat new in the early aughts, right? At least new for me. I noticed that some things have changed between then and now. First off, right, people were a lot more open to debate back then, right? So you could talk to somebody, and if they didn't agree with you, they would try to convince you, number one, that you're wrong, blah, 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 right? Secondly, conservatives were a lot more, it seemed, well thought out at that time as well. So, what do I mean by that? Well, today, half the time, if you don't agree, like if you go to a subreddit or something, like if you go to Reddit and you go to say R Conservative, or there's another one called R Only Conservatives, stuff like that, half the time you can't even post there because you have to be like an accepted member of the community. So they just don't allow dissenting voices in there at all to begin with, right? The other half the time, even if they do allow they allow normal people to post there, the minute you say something that goes against the narrative, they just ban you like in a nanosecond. Gone, right? And, it's not just the conservatives that do this. A lot of the liberal and progressive subreddits and forums and shit will do this as well. A few of them are actually notorious for it. There's even a couple of subreddits that will ban you for posting in other subreddits. So I'm not saying that, this is only a thing that conservatives do, especially on Reddit. There's a lot on the left that do this as well, right? But, but most of the time, in my experience, if you go to a left-leaning forum or Facebook group or subreddit, something like that, and you're sincere and you're not an asshole, you won't get banned. If you go on and then if you take a position and you stick to it, you're not a dick, you might get the entire subreddit or whatnot jumping on you at the same time, downvoting you, shit like that. That's different than being banned, right? If you do that on a conservative one, half the time, one strike and you're out. That's it. They don't care. And it was not like that before in the past. That was not a thing that happened. They would at least try to talk to you. They would at least try to tell you why you were wrong, whatever. And there were a couple that I used to go to all the time for the specific reason of debating conservatives. Like, that was kind of like my hobby and shit for like, years. professional forum troll. That was my thing. Right? And I mean, why do you think I'm into all of this shit in the first place? Right? You know, um, so yeah. And I found that even now, if you do find places, spaces, I guess you could call them, where they do debate you and they don't ban you in a nanosecond, more often than not, you encounter something that I call the ignorance horizon. So, what is the ignorance horizon? It's that point in a debate where your opposition doesn't have any pre-canned answers, right? And basically has to start looking shit up in order to contend with what you're saying, right? Most of the time nowadays, it doesn't even hit that point because they just ban you before it even does. But you can usually tell, because then what'll happen is that you'll be debating someone and then it'll just stop, and then the guy will come back 2 or 3 days later, and that's after he looked up the answers to what you are telling him because he didn't know. And you see that that seems to be way more frequent than what happened in the past, because conservatives nowadays are far less informed because they have alternative conservative media. They consume alternative media that is not fact-based. So you're starting to see shit that's just, it's like they don't get their news from normal sources of news. They get their news from social media and what other people say, and places like Reddit and shit like that, and Facebook. And this is why you shouldn't get your news from sources like that, because those guys are not, news organizations. They're just other people speculating, right, all the time. And this is why you see shit that has no basis in fucking reality all the time coming out of conservatives. That's why shit like QAnon takes root. Conspiracy theories, right? That's why they can't tell now when Donald Trump lies to them. They don't know. They don't know if it's a lie or not. They assume he's telling the truth because none of the media they consume ever points it out to them. Right. Now, it's not a lost cause. Debating conservatives, I don't think is a lost cause, because it's not all of them. It's only about 30%. The percent that corresponds to Trump's base, the deplorables. The people who took the word deplorable and made it a badge of honor. That's who we're talking about. All right. So it's not all of them. You got to remember, most people don't give a shit about politics. Most people don't pay attention. Most people have no idea about half of this shit that I'm talking about is even happening. If you were to talk to somebody about environmental dangers right now, and 60% of animal species that are just populations, not just species, but 60% of animal populations that are gone since 1970, and the giant fucking continent-sized island of fucking plastic bottles that's in the Pacific Ocean that's been there for a decade now, and the Great Barrier Reef dying, and all of that. If you were to talk to most people out there, would have no clue about any of this, because most people don't pay attention to the news. They go on Facebook and they look at funny cat videos, right? And then they get some shit that maybe their mom sends them or something, or their friend from work, and they go, look at those damn protesters stopping up traffic, blah blah blah, right? That's what most, and if that's your your connection to politics, everything is politics, and if that's where you get your information from, you have no clue what the fuck is happening out there. So we can't fix things when we have, why do you think we have this apathy out there? Why do you think 60% of people don't vote in the country right now? Right? Why is it that you know, something like QAnon, like obvious bullshit like QAnon. You know, I haven't made a video on QAnon yet because to me, it's obvious fucking bullshit. Obvious. But it's becoming mainstream now, right? It's like these people can't tell fantasy from reality anymore. So maybe I should make a video on QAnon now. Maybe I should do my part to try to educate people as to like this is why QAnon is fucking bullshit. This is why conspiracy theories are bullshit. Maybe I should make more conspiracy theory videos, you know. Maybe it's people like me. Maybe, you know, maybe we're the ones that should be taking it upon ourselves, you know, the YouTube people, right? You know, the skeptic community on YouTube. I consider myself a skeptic on YouTube. That's what I would like to be part of. You know, even though I'm not really an atheist, I don't make atheist videos and I don't make scientist videos, but you know, I would still like, if I had to classify myself, I would like to put myself in part of the skeptic community on YouTube. I believe in science, I believe in facts, I believe in things that actually affect people's lives. I believe in outcomes and not philosophy and not ideology. You know, I believe in practical, measurable outcomes and the quality of life that policies based on those things actually produce. That's what I believe. So maybe, you know, maybe this should be something that I should take upon myself to get a part of. And I don't know, I'll think about it. I'll have to do some research on it because, you know, QAnon is like, oh god. I mean, that in and of itself, I can make an entire channel on fucking QAnon, but anyway. So yeah, this is who I blame. You know, I blame the right wing. And it's because they basically are controlling everything and they're not doing anything to help people. In fact, they seem to be making it worse. You know, I don't know if you remember when Donald Trump thought he was going to lose the 2016 election. There was a lot of talk of Trump supporters basically threatening violence if he lost, saying that they were going to take, you know, Second Amendment remedies, and if they didn't win through the ballot box, they were going to win through, you know, bullets and not the ballot box, shit like that, right? Why am I bringing this up? Well, because we're actually kind of seeing that now. You know, my last 3 or 4 streams have been focusing on protests, right? Lots of protests that we're seeing around the country in regards to police brutality, you know, and we've seen them in various cities around the country, you know, notably Portland, also Seattle, also Los Angeles, stuff like that, right? And a lot of these we're starting to see violence beginning to escalate. And last week was the first time last week we actually talked about a guy from the left, from somebody who could be considered an anti-fascist, was actually guilty of murdering somebody. Right. And the right wing in the country, you know, especially online, have kind of leapt upon that and are losing their fucking minds over it. Still, it's been a week, and it's still, at least in the places where I run online, that's all everybody's still fucking talking about. You know. And I'm even starting to see some of the commenters on my own channel, you know, becoming more radicalized because of the shooting of, you know, that happened in Portland, where one of the guys, it was a guy that was with a group called Patriot Prayer, was shot. Right. We talked all about the actual shooting last week in my last stream, so I won't go into too much detail about that. If you want to hear my opinion on the actual shooting, please watch my last stream from last week. But I do want to talk a little bit about right-wing violence at protests, because, you know, up until then, Antifa, I guess you would call Antifa, right? there's been essentially no deaths from Antifa in the last 25 years in the United States. Zero, right? And that's not just me saying that. That's actual, like, Department of Justice reports, right? Because there's been a lot of studies recently into Antifa because Donald Trump and Bill Barr really, really, really wanted to declare Antifa a terrorist organization. And they can't. Because, first off, Antifa is not an actual organization. There is no organization called Antifa, right? They're not, like, say, for example, the Islamic State is an organization. They're not an organization like that. There's no leaders. You can't just, like, go down and look up where the Antifa recruitment office is online and then go join them, right? There are groups that base themselves on that and may call themselves Antifa, right? But that's all they are. They're just random groups of, you know, unassociated people, right, who go out and protest and then usually disband after the protest is over. So whenever you hear somebody, you know, talking about Antifa and talking about how they're like commies and they're trying to take over the world and they're being led by George Soros and all that, please remember that's all bullshit. There is no such fucking thing as an organization of organized Antifa people, you know, and like, you know, Antifa super soldiers and all that shit. That's all right-wing horseshit. That doesn't exist. All right. Let's give these goblins nipples. There we go. You know, because hey, goblins are milk. You know, milk-producing mammals too, right? Anyway. So that's all bullshit. Okay, but the guy that actually did shoot, you know, that dude from Patriot Prayer and claims that he did it in self-defense. He actually did describe himself in a Vox interview as an anti-fascist. So, you know, that you could say is the very first death attributed to a left-wing Antifa person in the last 25 years. Can't say the same for any right-wing people, can we? All right. Right-wing terrorism is a major problem in this country, which the right-wing people are once again in denial of it actually being a problem. You know, Donald Trump has directed the Department of Justice to not focus on right-wing terrorism. You know, it's not like they all went away as soon as Trump took office. Okay, right-wing terrorism is back bigger than ever and more of a threat than ever and responsible for dozens of deaths per year. Something like 300, more than 300 deaths since 9/11. You know, more than Islamic terrorism, more than any other terrorism we have, you know, more than eco-terrorism, more than anybody. It's right-wing. If you're thinking, you know, right-wing, if we have a problem with terrorism in this country, it's right-wing terrorism. Okay. We're in denial. Half of our country is in denial that that's a problem, number one. Right? So, that's the first thing. Second thing is that they are escalating violence. You know, last time we talked about people who were getting shot at protests. Right? You know, you had this guy, Kyle Rittenhouse, that shot 2 people at a protest. Right? Before that, there was, in fact, I actually have it written down here. Let me see if I can find it, if I deleted it or not. Blah, blah, blah. Damn. Well, before that, there were 2 people at CHOP, the Seattle Autonomous Zone, right, who were shot. One guy was killed, African American guy. His name was Horst Lorenzo Anderson Jr. He was killed on June 20th of this year. Right. Shot dead outside a CHOP. Suspect still at large. The same night that happened, another guy named Dion Young, 33-year-old African-American guy, was also shot. He survived. He claims that he was assaulted by right-wing white supremacists, Proud Boy types, right? The people who shot him have never been apprehended as well. They got away. Kind of stands to reason because he was only a couple of blocks away from where Horace Lorenzo Anderson Jr. was killed. You know, kind of stands to reason that the first guy might have been killed by similar individuals. But, you know, we don't know, right? Later on, there were also two other people who were, one was shot and one shot dead, and one was wounded at CHOP as well. Two teenagers who apparently stole a car and drove up threateningly towards the security people. And so they were shot because there were reports of Proud Boy types going around killing people, right? So, and apparently there was a drive-by shooting in which nobody was killed, and so they thought this might have been another one, and so the security people at CHOP killed these two teenagers because they didn't slow down when they were flagged to slow down, which kind of supports what I said before, you know, why random citizens should not be taking the law into their own hands, because they often get the wrong person. They shot the wrong guys. Gee, it's almost like they don't have any training and don't know what they're doing. Maybe that's why random fucking people shouldn't be vigilantes, right? So that happened, you know. There were two more shootings outside of CHOP on June 21st and June 22nd. Luckily, nobody died, and the two victims of those refused to talk to the police. So we don't know what happened with those guys. Were those just normal crime? Were those also right-wing people who threatened to kill them if they said anything? We don't know, right? So yeah, you know, that should happen. On June 8th, a leader of the KKK drove his car into a crowd and tried to run some people over, right, at a Black Lives Matter place. So I've got this here. You know, here's a source on this guy. KKK leader charged for attack on Black Lives Matter protesters. There goes this example of the master race right here. Harry Rogers, 36, drove recklessly toward a protest in Henrico County in Virginia. Revved the engine and drove straight into some protesters, right? Luckily, nobody died because of this piece of shit, and he's in prison. So, you know, there you go. July 5th, the next year, another master of the, you know, member of the master race drives into a protest in Seattle, kills one person. Her name was Summer Taylor. Seattle protest. One person killed after car strikes protesters. So yeah, Summer Taylor, if you remember, was the person who died during this one. That was big. In fact, I even did a live stream about that one. There you go. Okay. Then, in Portland, a truck with a Trump flag intentionally rammed into a woman in downtown Portland who survived and is now suing the guy for $45,000. And, okay, thank you. Continue with the site. So, yeah, you know, see, that's what we're not hearing, because we only hear about this when somebody dies, but it's happening all the time. Right? That right-wingers and Trump protesters and all of that, you know, are just making it a habit of ramming their fucking trucks and their cars into people at protests, you know, shooting people, right? It's like, it happens so much that if nobody dies, we don't hear about it. You know what I mean? So it's not like this is just some shit that just started happening last week. you know, and then no. This has been happening for a long time. You know, protesters basically going to a protest, it's like you're taking your life into your hands. Because if some fucking asshole doesn't blow you away, some other asshole might fucking run you over. And that's been happening for years. You know, I don't know if you remember the Unite the Right rally where that fucking guy ran over. Her name was Heather Heyer, right? White supremacist piece of shit runs his fucking car into the crowd, kills Heather Heyer, right? In fact, you know, here's the thing, okay? So when that happened in 2017, you know, you would think people would be appalled by that, right? You would think that if, you know, if you're a right-wing person and you see all these fucking Nazis out there protesting and shit, you know, white supremacist Nazis, right? You would think that, you know, if you weren't a Nazi, you would want to disassociate yourself from them. You would want to say, hey, maybe I'm conservative, maybe I even like Donald Trump, but I'm not, you know, I'm not one of these guys, you know. I'm not a white supremacist, I'm not a Nazi. Maybe that's what you would be saying to yourself, right? That's not what happened. Right? That's not what happened. The right wing in this country flocked to the defense of the fucking Nazis. You know, so much so that there were bills introduced around the country where, you know, Republican lawmakers have tried to make bills to protect drivers who intentionally run their cars into crowds at protests. All right. This is how, you know, you're talking about, like, you know, why do I blame Republicans, right? Specifically Republicans, you know, but conservatives in general. But I specifically blame Republicans for the problems we have in this country, right? It's because of shit like this, you know. People are out there protesting, right? Instead of addressing the shit that the protesters are protesting about, you know, violence from police, you know, basically an encroaching police state that doesn't treat citizens like they have worth, right? And like their lives have any worth, hence Black Lives Matter, right? Instead of actually looking at why are these people in the streets protesting? Why are they so upset? What's going on out there that is pissing people off? Instead of even looking at that, they're saying, hey, if you want to just run these people, you know, if you're driving to work and you come across these guys who have blocked the street and you don't like them, we're going to make it so that you don't go to jail if you just run them over. All you got to do is say, hey, my life was in danger. My life was in danger. I felt like my life was in danger. And that's what these bills are. States have introduced bills to protect drivers who run over protesters. I'm going to put the links to all of this shit down in the bottom so you can read through them. Let's see, how many? Florida, North Carolina, North Dakota, Rhode Island, Tennessee, Texas. All right, 5 states have tried to decriminalize running someone over in a fucking crowd because Republicans are afraid. All right, that's what. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. You know, so when you hear people say shit like both sides are the same, you know, and that the left, because this is what you're hearing right now, you're saying, oh, the left is encouraging violence at protests, right? Can you name for me any politician, any Democratic politician out there who has introduced a bill to decriminalize rioting or arson or something like that? Can you, you know, because that's basically what are these crimes that people commit during these protests, right? Destruction of property, vandalism, destruction of property. That's what they commit. Can you find any bills out there introduced by a Democrat anywhere in the country that says we're going to take away the penalties for arson or vandalism during a protest. Can you find that? Right? You won't. You won't. You know why? Because nobody supports that shit. All right? Even the fucking protesters that are there don't support that shit. Okay? It's, a small segment of anarchists that actually do that stuff. If those people are not agent provocateurs to begin with, we did an entire live stream on that too a little while back. Lots of videos of agent provocateurs running around, smashing fucking windows. Don't forget the guy at the fucking auto zone that was running around smashing windows at that auto zone turned out to be a white supremacist. I showed videos of cops popping people's tires, right? I did an entire live stream on that. So, don't fucking tell me that shit doesn't exist, because it does. All right? And, I'll go pull the fucking videos up again. All right? Don't feed me this bullshit. Okay? So, the thing is that even the people at the protests don't like that stuff. Video after video of people running up trying to stop it. And who are you? What are you doing? Stop smashing those windows. Blah 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 blah. Stop writing. Right? It's out there. All right, and I'm not blaming all of it on agent provocateurs. Okay, because that's silly. There's obviously people going out there taking advantage of these things, taking advantage of protests in order to go smash and grab shit. We know that's a thing. Okay, we know that's happening, right? That's fine. Okay. And you know what? I'll be the first to admit, maybe the protesters should be doing more to stop that. Okay. I'll be the first person to say that. But, what I'm not seeing are politicians on the left trying to legalize it, trying to pass bills to take away the punishment for it, trying to say, hey, it's okay if you do this, right? You don't see that shit. You see it coming from Republicans when it's like, okay, it's fine to just kill these people. It's fine to just run them over in your car if you think that you're, if you think that you're fucking in danger, right? And, because that's what you always hear from these people. Because, there was a crowd in New York a couple of days ago on September 4th. In fact, I'm going to look that up. I'm going to look up New York City car drives into crowd. And we're going to find passenger protester tells their sides after News 4 finds car that drove through New York crowd. So, there's one other thing that we want to find. Give me 1 second here. I wish these cars would stop driving around outside of my fucking house during my live stream, but that's okay. So I want to show you guys something, first off. So here's this car. There's a car that basically pulled in and drove through a crowd. Luckily didn't kill anybody, but basically sped up, drove through a crowd, knocked a bunch of people away, right? So let's turn on our monitor here, left monitor. Alright, this is from NBC New York. Passenger protester tell their sides after News 4 finds car that drove through New York City crowd. Right, I'm not going to watch their video because fuck them. Let's just kind of, god damn it, pop-ups. What to know? Daniel Prude, 41, ran naked through the streets of Rochester and died after a group of protesters. Police officers put a hood over his head, blah, blah. That's why the people are protesting, because cops killed a naked man by suffocating him to death. So anyway, what happened is that there was a car that drove through a group of protesters in Times Square, right? And there's a video. Here's the car that plows through, right? We could show this, but I'll probably get kicked if... I could probably show this video. Let's see. Let's just have no sound on it. Ah, man. Fucking ads. Anyway. So, here's what the people in this car... passenger in the vehicle, Juliet Germanata. said she saw my life flash before in front of me as she saw protesters gather around the vehicle. She said the driver was a pro-police activist, not part of the group, and offered to drive them away. So here's the video. See how they're driving away through the video. Let's rewind that a little bit. Here's the car, right? People are just around it. Then it starts speeding through. Do you see that dude with the bike right here? Watch this. Okay, car's cool here. Guy hits it with a flag. Then it like rams a dude's bike, pulls off. That's what happened, right? Luckily, nobody died, you know. But it's a speeding car through a crowd, kind of like how Republican lawmakers have been trying to decriminalize in various states around the country, right? You know, they've been trying to say, hey, you know, that's what that whole movement is. You know, if you feel that your life is in danger, you can just pull through a fucking crowd and not go to jail. Well, sure enough, the people in the vehicle are claiming, I thought my life was in danger. Right. The mob was trying to attack them. They started trying to open the car, hitting the car. Then the driver drove through. Do you see anyone here trying to open the car? Is anyone even touching it? Now, look at that. Look at that one more time. They drive up. They stop. No one is touching the fucking car, right? Now, remember, at this point, they've already gone through the crowd. They've already pulled through the crowd, right? And people are pissed at them because they pulled through the crowd, see? They're pulling up. They're forcing people to jump out of the way. So yeah, people are mad. A guy hit him with look at that. It's a flag. Okay. It's like paper on a stick. Okay. People are pissed, and then they just speed through and they knock a dude in. See, watch this guy on the left with his bike right here. Look at this, right here, right here. See that shit? You know, because they pulled through and knocked him down. So the guy hit him. The guy hit him with his fucking bike. Right. You know, because, you know, people are pissed. People get pissed when you fucking, like, ram a car through their crowd and make them jump out of the way and shit like that. People get mad at shit like that, okay? But no, the passengers just have to claim they thought their life was in danger. Did it look like their lives were in danger? Right? You know, people attacked them after they already fucking started ramming their car through. Watch it again, okay? No one is attacking them at all. No one's doing shit right here. No one's doing shit. And then suddenly, when they pull through, then everybody starts fucking, like, following them and shit. Because they just rammed through a fucking crowd, alright? So it's like, no, the crowd was not attacking their fucking car. Alright? The crowd was reacting to them pulling through the fucking car, pulling through, and you know, they could have ran somebody over right there. What if somebody fell over in front of them? You know, they could have killed somebody. Here's the thing about that. Why is this so controversial, right? Because right before this happened, there's another video of these people getting in this car being protected by cops. Pro-Trump counter-protesters receive NYPD escort before driving through Black Lives Matter march. Let's see if they got the video. Oh, here we go. I don't know if you've seen this one. This is the same car. These are the people getting into the car. Getting in the car, blah, 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 blah. Oh, look, here come the cops blocking off that car. Right? Remember, the guy that's in this car is a pro-police activist. Here come the cops protecting these guys as they drive away right before they go off to plow through a fucking crowd. Alright, see these people up here in this crowd? Those are the guys. So they basically, the cops like defended these people, let them go, then they drive off, plow through a crowd, almost fucking kill somebody. Right. That's what's going on out there in the country, right? This is the shit that, you know, Republicans are trying to legalize. They've introduced bills to decriminalize that. It's like, oh, if you just happen to plow through a crowd of people and you just happen to kill or injure somebody, all you got to do is say, hey, my life was in danger, and then you get away with it. Do those people look like their lives are in danger? All right, get the fuck out of here. Do you see the same coming from the right wing? From the left? Do you see any Democrats out there trying to legalize the behavior of rioters or looters? No. So don't feed me this shit that it's like, the left is fucking endorsing, the left is like escalating the violence, because they're not. They're not escalating the violence, okay? The right wing is escalating the violence, okay? We have a problem in this country, a problem with, a very uninformed, uninformed group of people who have a lot of political power and, you know, no capacity for self-reflection, right? Who are escalating the violence in this country. It's starting to look like, I brought this up a little bit earlier in the stream, and I think I'm going to end with this because we're getting close to 2 hours here. Fuck, we're over 2 hours. It's 2.5 hours. Shit, I got to go to sleep. Probably going to end with this. All right. As I brought it up earlier, chances are Joe Biden's going to win in this election, right? It's looking like it. It's looking pretty bad for Donald Trump. Although I'm not going to, flat out, I'm not going to make any predictions because I still think Donald Trump may squirrel out a victory, if he suppresses the vote enough and tricks enough people into not voting by mail and shit like that. He might actually end up winning, right? I fucking hope not. So I'm not going to be emotionally attached to this election like I was last time, right? But it's looking like Biden is going to take this one home, Please go out and vote, by the way, if you're a Biden supporter. If you're actually going to vote against Donald Trump in this election, please go out and vote. Don't just think you got it in the bag, because we don't have it in the bag. All right? He can lose. Please remember that. He can fucking lose. Joe Biden can lose. Even though he's up by 7.5 points, and he's up in all of the major, he's up in all of the fucking swing states, right? He's even up in some states that went to Trump last time, and Donald Trump, it doesn't look like Donald Trump has to win all of the swing states in order to win, and he has to win some of the leaning states that are leaning towards Joe Biden. It doesn't really look very good for Donald Trump, let's just say, right? And it's got me thinking, what's going to happen when he loses, if he loses. Hopefully he will. Do you think that this population of people who are armed, who are not very well informed, who are very vindictive, who are prone to violence, and also armed to the teeth, do you think they're going to go quietly? In 2016, these people threatened violence if they lost. Let's not forget that. They basically said there was going to be mass shootings and terrorist attacks and shit like that if Donald Trump did not win. All right. Let's never forget that. Okay. So, if it happens this time, what are they going to do? I don't know. I think what's going to happen, because, these protests and things are not going to just go away the minute Donald Trump loses the election. I think we're going to see mass shootings at BLM protests. That's what I think is going to happen. And I wouldn't be surprised if it happens before the election, right? But I think most Trump supporters out there are savvy enough to understand that that would do more damage than good before the election. So I'm thinking that it probably won't, but I think after the election it will. Right. And anybody out there, if you go to these protests, right, if you're a BLM supporter and you go to these protests, be careful. Be very careful, because this is, especially after the election. After the election, and if Joe Biden wins, right? And the irony is that BLM doesn't give a shit about Joe Biden. The people who protest out there right now for Black Lives Matter, they don't give a fuck about Joe Biden. Most of those people don't vote, really. They don't care about electoral politics. That's kind of one of the sad things about this movement, I think, is that their predilection for them to not participate in electoral politics. And I think they're going to come to a rude awakening. If they don't vote, then they don't get what they want. I don't think they don't understand that yet, right? All the protests in the world aren't going to get you what you want if you don't actually get some leadership out there to change the system and get some laws passed, because shit is not going to happen without laws. You can't, there's only so much that protesting is going to do for you. And I know that the argument on the left right now is from people who are basically arguing that point, saying, yeah, we don't need electoral politics. We just need to be out there in the streets every day, protesting, blah, 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 forcing them to give us what you want. It's like, no, man, you're not going to get it. I don't think they understand that, but that, is besides the point. I really do think that there's a serious danger that, come November 6th, after the election, some very, very pissed off people with some high-powered weapons are going to be looking for somebody to blame for Donald Trump losing. Even though it's been for months, Donald Trump has been behind in the polls. He hasn't been ahead once for months. Let's go to Trump versus Biden, and then let's look at Real Clear Politics right here. Right, and let's turn on my monitor. He's ahead 7.5. These are the polls going back for months. He hasn't been ahead at all. See, it's blue, 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 blue. Every single one of them. You have to go all the way back to February 14th, fucking Valentine's Day, to find one poll where Donald Trump was ahead. So it's like, you can see the writing on the wall here, folks. I know the polls don't really mean anything, but you can see the writing on the wall, okay? It's very, very bad. Here's another thing that I want to show you guys. Let's go back to, there's one more here. We got to go to, where is it? Not that one, not that one. 270 to win. All right. Presidential election. There's a map. I want to find the presidential election map. President. Here we go. Okay, see this map? Right. This is their projection. Okay, so if you look, these are the heavy blue states, the heavy red states. These are the leaning, likely these are the leaning, right? That's where we're at. These guys are toss-ups. So if you look at this, even if Joe Biden loses all of the toss-ups, right, he has to still, and he gets just the ones that lean his way, he still wins. So Donald Trump has to win all of these, all of the toss-ups, and some of the ones that Joe Biden is leaning in order to actually win the election. It's not looking good. It's not looking good. The map is set up in such a way that Trump can win Ohio and Florida and something like, Arizona and Texas, and still lose the election. It's kind of nuts. It's very highly unlikely that he's going to be able to do this. Now I'm not saying it's impossible, and we really should not bet on it being impossible. I mean, we all thought he was going to lose last time too. Let's not forget about that shit. It's not looking likely for him. So even though, any fucking idiot can see that the chances of him losing are really, really high, if he actually does, there's going to be a lot of pissed off people, with guns who are not well informed, not very politically savvy. They don't understand why he lost. They're going to think the election's rigged because Trump is saying that it's rigged for the last 6 months, and they're going to be looking for somebody to blame. Who are they going to blame? Black Lives Matter. All right. So once again, if you're out there, if you're protesting, be very careful. I wouldn't go, you know. Seriously, I wouldn't go in at least for a little while until the shit blows over. Because this is what's going to happen, I would be very surprised if we didn't see a mass shooter at a BLM protest. Right? Just saying, that's the next logical step when it comes to... I mean, we already have armed militias and shit showing up and shooting people at these things. And, that kind of thing. We already have patrols of fucking brown shirt Proud Boys running around shooting people, beating the shit out of people. We have an entire political party that encompasses half of the country basically like taking the side of fascists and Nazis and shit. Basically like taking it upon themselves to defend the country from the people who are fighting against literal Nazis. Right. That's how misinformed these people are. Right? Let's remember that. Let's remember that Antifa is fighting against actual white supremacists and Nazis. Those are the people they fight against. Right? And the Trump supporters, the Republicans, the people who watch Fox News have taken it upon themselves to side with the Nazis. Why? Why? Because fucking Tucker Carlson told them that they're a bunch of communists and that they're going to burn all the cities down. That's why. All right? That's why. That's the reason why. Because, the people that make money scaring Republicans have lied them into taking that side. That's why. So... Anyway, the country's fucked up. Country is fucked up and we are in a lot of trouble. So, I think I'm going to end this. Everybody out there stay safe. This is what we got so far. And I think this looks way better than what we had last time. So here's our kind of, you can't really fit it all on the screen. Let me see if I can make this go up a little higher so that I can fit more of it on the camera. There's no way I can zoom out here or something. I don't know. Well, anyway, you can't really see the entire thing on here all at once, which is kind of too bad. But I think it actually looks pretty good. I got our little halfling in the center. We got our guy up here with a club. We got this dude, and then a couple of other dudes around there. And I think it's turning out way, way better. So I think actually what I'm going to do with this is actually do this in traditional media only, because I'm pushing myself. I'm getting myself out of my comfort zone. So because of the last decade, all I've done is stuff in Photoshop. Seriously, I haven't I don't think I've painted anything since 2010. I don't think I've done anything in colored pencils or anything like that since, Jesus Christ, 1998. It's been a long time. I haven't done traditional media in forever, so it could be a disaster. So what I'm going to do after we're finished inking this, I'm going to go get it Xeroxed onto some heavy cardboard, so I can use traditional media on it, because this is all thin paper. And, if I were to put markers or watercolors or something on this, it's just going to bleed right through. Right? So that'll be the next step. So probably the next 2 or 3 live streams will just be us inking this until we're really cool with how it looks, and then we'll come back and we'll do that next step there. Anyway, so yeah, this one went a little long. Kind of rambled a lot during this stream. Thank you for sticking with me. I see that we actually did have a couple of viewers that hung out the whole stream. Oh, hey, we got some people, somebody commenting. Dinah Calto loves me. Dinah Cat loves me. Trump just bagged Florida on a court ruling. Wait, what? Trump just bagged Florida on a court ruling? I don't know. I'm going to have to read about that. I don't know what's going on with that. Let's see. There will be terror attacks if Trump wins too. Don't understand what people think fascism is doing for them. Well, hey, thank you, Dinah. Cat loves me. Thank you for hanging around the whole time. Um, I know that I think it looks like you just started commenting right when I'm ending things, but the stream's been going for already almost 3 hours, and I gotta work tomorrow, so we gotta end this anyway. Um, there is one thing I did want to show you guys before we closed, and I did kind of show this last time, but I want to show it again. So this is the piece that we did in the last couple of streams, and I made a print out of it. So let me just kind of show you what it looks like. Here's the prints that I make. They look like this. They're coffee stained kind of thing, and so this is what like the last like 3 or 4 live streams we did. We drew this, and this is what they look like after I do my process to them. So I print them on this paper, and then I stain them and distress it so it looks like it's all old and messed up. And then I tear the edges, and I use coffee and shit like that. And then there's this sealer on there that gives it a kind of leathery sort of texture, right? And I sell these for 15 bucks each. So this is like, basically I sell these on Etsy, right? So if you like what I do and you want to support the channel, you can go to my Etsy store. Let me turn on my left monitor. And this is where I sell these guys, right? So here's our demon scroll. Here's a better look so you can get the entire thing on the screen. That's what they look like. In fact, I think that is the same one that I just showed you guys. might be the same one. But anyway, if you like what I do and you want to support me, you know, please consider buying something from my Etsy store. I have that guy. I've got some, you know, these are Lovecraft characters. This is from Lovecraft, and then this is like Cthulhu, you know, stuff like that. And then I have some other characters here, like a Godzilla and like, you know, Mothra and shit like that. So if you like what I do and you want to support me, and I also have my comics down here, please consider buying something from my Etsy store. I will put the link in the bottom of the thing in a comment. And if you really, really like me, you can join my Patreon. I actually don't have anybody on it right now, but these are the 3 levels for a measly $1 a month. I'll give you a shout out and early access. And if you give me 10 bucks, I'll make a video on the subject of your choice. So, you know, if you want me to make a video on, I don't know, radioactive underwater squirrel wrestling, I will make that video. And I'll draw a black and white piece for you, which, if that is something like this, or even something like, you know, what we did in the last stream, a little more detailed than this, I'll draw that for you. And if you give me 20 bucks a month, I will do all of that and give you a free item of choice from my Etsy store. So if you really like it and you want one of those scrolls, I'll give you one of those for free. Then I also have a DeviantArt site, so let me just go to that. If you like my artwork and you want to see more of it, you can check me out on DeviantArt. So I put all this stuff on DeviantArt, and I have my comics on here and other things, you know. Lots of comics. Here's a piece I did with a ninja with chainsaws. So, ninja with chainsaw arms. You know, here's a bunch of other things. Here's something I drew way back in the day, 2010. So, you know, if you like my artwork and you want to see more of it, then check me out on DeviantArt. Here's also my Instagram. So I usually post sketches and things on Instagram. So, you know, well, I can't really zoom in on these, but Instagram, Dirty Kitchen Press on Instagram. Please check me out there. And if you want to see more videos of me, this is my other YouTube channel where I make live streams and video game stuff and toy reviews, and I also review movies and TV shows. And this one is like me with an old Pong console that I cleaned up, and then I play The Sims for the first time, and then here's some action figures, shit like that. So if you want to see pop culture kind of stuff where it's non-political content, check me out on UCD videos. And I think that's it for tonight. Thank you everybody who stopped by and my viewers who actually hung out the entire stream. I do see that there were a couple of people that hung out the whole stream. Thank you so much. You guys are awesome. And thank you, Dana Cat Loves Me, for hanging out and commenting. And we'll see you guys probably on Wednesday or Thursday of next